One of the most common questions that I'm asked is how long is it going to take me to find my first deal? And to be honest with you, it's an impossible question to answer. Like everyone has a different skill set, everyone has different talents, everyone has different data they're using. Like everyone's doing something a little bit different, and even if I told you exactly what to do, you're probably going to still get some different results than I would. And really, this is why I'm making this video, because to address the question of how long will it take you to get your first deal, it depends. But here's how you can kind of speed it up. And first of all, if you're new to the channel, my name's Justin You're Wrong, and I have helped hundreds of people make money in real estate. So first off, I want to talk about my first deal ever. And this takes me back to what, like 3-4 years ago? First deal I ever found after like continually starting to market, it took me about a month to find my first deal. Now, granted, that was really fast. I think it took me a month to find the first deal, and then it took me like several months to find my next. Like it took me a long time to find that second deal. But here's what I did to find that first deal, and kind of, I want to show you kind of what it took so that maybe it kind of helps you, and I'll talk about like how I could have sped it up and whatnot. But anyways, that first deal, to even get the data as far as like what kind of people I'm calling or who I'm reaching out to, these were homeowners who were behind on their taxes. So essentially what I did, or as I had a friend of mine, essentially, he was my first mentor, he pulled data from the county, essentially, for all the people delinquent on their taxes, meaning these people were really behind on their property taxes. And I don't know all the other states out there, but for my state, Fresno, California, if you're behind like 5 years or so on your taxes, or you don't make a payment, you miss, and you don't continue to not make that payment for 5 years, you get on the delinquent tax list, and essentially the tax collector can come and take your home after the 5 years. So I was essentially targeting all the people who were about to lose their homes after the 5 years were up. So it's like the people who are desperate. That was a list I was targeting, and it took a lot of work to compile that list, because to get the list, first off, you had to ask the county for it. They give you the list all jumbled up, this data, and you have to like organize it on Excel or something, and it took forever. But once you have the data organized, you have a list of all the homeowners, their addresses, all that stuff. And then we skip trace it. So essentially we skip trace it to try to find these people's phone numbers to call them. And then from there, it was just massive amounts of calling, cold calling. I was on the phone pretty much all day, just cold calling. If you don't know what cold calling is, it's calling a stranger basically to sell a service. Instead of this case, it's not I guess you're not selling a product, but our service is buying their home. So I was essentially calling all these people trying to buy their houses. Most of the answers were no, I do not want to sell, but there were a few that wanted to sell. Now, the list wasn't even that big. Like a lot of people think that, you need to call hundreds of thousands of people. This list was definitely under 3,000 people. And so, I'd run through the list, call every single person on the list, and I don't know, my capacity at the time wasn't calling crazy amounts. I might call a few hundred a day. Like at the time, I didn't have like an auto dialer. I was just literally just on my cell phone dialing. So my speed of calling wasn't that fast. So I was calling a couple hundred a day. And I'd run through the list. If none of them answered, I'd just run through the list again. So I just kept calling these people. And the very first deal I got from that list, it wasn't just cold calling that got me the deal. I actually had driven by the property as well. So what I did was, I talked to as many people as I could from the cold calling, the ones who would answer at least. And the ones who did not answer, I was like, okay, now you're not answering your phones like for 5, 6, 7 times. Now it's time I'm gonna knock on your door and I'm gonna try to see if I can catch you in person. And so for this particular person, I caught him on the phone once. It wasn't the actual homeowner. It was actually the spouse to the homeowner. They were an elderly gay couple. I talked to the spouse, and we got along on the phone pretty well. Like I told him I wanted to buy the house. He's had some pretty bad experience with like other investor sharks who are just really lowballing him, not really caring about them. And we kind of hit it off. So he really liked me, and he's like, hey, let's stop. You can stop by the property at this time. And so I made an appointment with him to stop by the property. I stopped by, and the owner wasn't there. So I ended up talking to the spouse again at his house, at like literally at the front door. And we talked for like an hour or two. We still got along really well. And he's like, hey, I'm so sorry. My husband wasn't here. Let's have you come back another time, and I'll make sure he's here this time. And so I was like, okay, cool. So we set another time. I finally drive back to the property at the appointment that we scheduled. and the owner was there. And so this time it was owner, his husband, me, and also my mentor was there at the time too. And so we just kind of walked the property, and keep in mind, this property was just trash. Like it stunk. Like it was really gross, really messy. There's like 12 puppies around the house just running around, maybe more. But the house was disgusting. And really the whole purpose of that meet at the time, I just wanted to see what he wanted for the property, what he really wanted for the property. And so at the end of the walkthrough and just kind of chatting a bit, just building rapport with him, we asked him the question, so like, what do you want for this place? And I think at the time he had said, you know what, like, I don't think I can take, what did he say? I think he said, I don't think I can take anything under 100, 110 or 100,000, something like that. And we're like, okay, like, let me go back to the office, run some numbers, and I'll get back to you to see what we can do for you. And that was kind of how it worked, because I just wanted to confirm the numbers too with my partner and my mentor before like making an official offer with him. So we go back to the office, and because I saw all these puppies and I saw like after talking to them, having that conversation, they were actually kind of struggling and going through a lot. Like they're really struggling to like make ends meet. Like they couldn't really pay a lot for the groceries and stuff like that. And I saw they had all these puppies. So I actually stopped by Target. This is not an ad for Target, unless you want to sponsor Target. But I stopped by Target, bought some dog food, and I just brought it back to them. I was like, hey, like, I know you guys are going through a hard time. Like, hope this helps. Like a big bag of dog food. They were super appreciative. And again, I haven't even made the offer yet, but I was like, dude, just be a good person. Like they're kind of struggling. And this is kind of the stuff you see as a real estate investor. You just have a lot of people from different backgrounds, different life experiences, and everyone's going through something. Like you just have to be understanding and willing to help. So after I did that, gave him the dog food, I crunched the numbers, and even at the $100,000 price, I was like, wow, this I think this is a really good deal. I think this makes sense. And so from there, I talked to my mentor at the time, who I was kind of working under. He kind of took me under his wing, and I was like, hey, like, I think this number makes sense. Like, what should I do? Like, how should I approach this now? And I guess the negotiation further goes, he kind of told me like, okay, if $100,000 makes sense, let's offer $87,500 just to see what he says. And then we can work up from there. And I was like, okay, like I'll try that. And I did. And there's a lot more to it. Like I use different kind of negotiation tactics, but essentially like I had so much rapport built with him that he was a lot easier to work with than I expected. Like I offered the $87,500 and he was like, like, I don't know if this will work. I don't know about, like, it might be too low. And I was like, okay, like, I understand. Let me talk to my partner. I'm going to try to push him back up for you. Like, I'll try my best. I'm going to fight for you. So I tried to like kind of bring myself to his understanding that I was on his side, which I was. Like, I was like, okay, let me see what we can do for you. And after talking to my partner, we're like, okay, we can probably pay $90,000. So we offer the $90,000. We come back, and hey, like, this is the best I got for you. I got him up to $90,000. What do you say? And he accepted the offer. So that was like the short story. There's a lot more to it, but that was a short story of how I got that first deal. Now, keep in mind, this came from one cold calling, but not cold calling alone. It also came from the door knocking. So if you're starting out, just don't be afraid to try different things and don't take no for an answer. I mean, if they say no, yeah, take no for an answer right there, right then and there. But it might not be no a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months, whatever it is, unless they're like, no, I'm planning not to sell ever. But don't take no for an answer in the sense of like, if you talk to people on the phone and they're like, yeah, I can't talk right now, or they just don't answer, that's not a no. Like if they don't answer the phone, that's not a no. Drive by, knock on the door and see if they're there and try to get the deal done. Like do whatever it takes. So that was how I got my first deal. Now, I want to kind of go over the reasons why I actually got that deal. Now, one, the data. This is maybe first and foremost. Keep in mind, I found this deal within a month of trying to cold call and market this thing or do my marketing for this. And that's pretty fast. Like most people I tell nowadays, like if you're trying to start, like give yourself a runway of like a year to find your first deal because you're going to make mistakes. You're probably not going to be very good. Like there's a lot of factors in this, but I found this in a month. And the reason why, first and foremost, was I had good data. I got the data directly from the county who had a list of all the people behind on their taxes. So these are people that were likely, motivated sellers, people who had some type of motivation to sell, which is they didn't want to lose their homes and lose money, so they'd rather sell to an investor for a cheaper price so that they don't have to lose money, but instead make money. Like that was kind of the benefit to them. It's not like I'm going to these people, I'm like, hey, like, I heard you're behind on your taxes, like, do you want to sell? Like, no, I'm not saying that, but I'm just talking to them to seeing if they want to sell, because I know that they know that they're in trouble. Like, they have to know they're in trouble. They're getting letters every month from the county or however often they send them saying, hey, pay your taxes, pay your taxes. Hey, we're gonna get your house. Like, they're getting these letters. And so I had really good data. 2, I had decent volume. So I was calling a lot of people often. I was calling, and I was trying different strategies. So I was also door knocking, driving by these people, leaving flyers at their doors if they didn't answer the door. I'm like, hey, like, and the flyer would say something like, hey, I buy houses, call me back if you want to sell your house. Something like that. Could be a simple little note. But I leave those at people's doors when they didn't answer. And I was doing a lot of that. So like, that's what I did literally all day. All day I was compiling, before that, all day after I had the list, I was just calling people, emailing people if I had their emails. I would try texting the numbers as well, which was kind of hard because a lot of these numbers are like bad numbers, but I tried texting too. And then I door knock too. So I would do all these different things, a lot of volume for a very targeted and good list. And 3, the reason why I found the deal fast, I had pretty decent sales ability. Now, sales ability doesn't mean you're gonna be like a shark. Sales ability, I'm meaning like you can talk to people well. You can kind of understand, you can empathize, you can just be nice. Like, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, if you're a nice person and you can listen really well, you can probably be a good salesperson. Most of sales is just listening and trying to deliver a solution to their problem that'll help both sides, essentially. So those 3 things, or those few things, helped me a lot to find this deal fast. Now, if you're wanting to find a deal fast yourself, here's how you can do it. You don't have to do the same exact thing I did in terms of like getting a tax delinquent list. Like, you could, it works. But you essentially just have to pick a strategy and stick to it. So whatever list you're gonna pull, so whether you're gonna, well, first, if you're gonna be cold calling, stick with cold calling and go hard at that. And if they don't answer, do the texting. If they don't answer, do the door knocking. Like, try these different things, but stick to one strategy really hard first and go all in at it. So you also are gonna need to find some people to reach out to. Now, you can either do it and compile a list from like these data sources like PropStream or something where you can pull a bunch of home records, like, and you can like categorize homeowners by certain people that you want to target. Or you can literally do it by like doing like a driving for dollars list where you just drive around, look at beat up properties, and you see like, okay, who wants to sell this house? Like, if these houses are beat up, you can compile a list of addresses and skip trace those people. But essentially what you're doing is find one data source, gather a bunch of data for these homeowners, find their numbers or their contact information, and you can either call them, text them, door knock them. You can do a lot of things, but like, those are the simplest things you can do, and stick to it and have volume. And honestly, it's gonna take longer than you think. If it does take faster than you think, the next one might take longer than you think, longer than that first one, because that's what happened to me. And just know that it's gonna be a learning process, and know that all the no's you're gonna get, it's gonna lead to one yes, because at the end of the day, you only need one. This is what I tell most people, is that when you're trying to look for that first deal, you only need one. So you might get thousands of no's. You might get thousands of no's. And I want you to be okay with that, because you have to realize one no, every no that you get is one step closer to that yes. So that's what I have for you. And also, if you just want to grow your real estate investing business, I want you to click on the link in the description below for a free strategy session. But otherwise, peace.